Welcome back, people of the internet. I'm DargonEvo, and today we are checking out the 2014 Neca Godzilla over here. This happens to be the second Neca figure I've ever gotten, and I plan on making this a series, so y'all stay tuned for that. But let's get right into the review. So starting off with looks, I want to point out that this fellow right here looks very movie accurate. And funny enough, I just actually went back and rewatched the movie with my fiance, which, as coming as back as an older fan, since it's been 10 years, I actually have a much better appreciation for this design right here. I'm quite pleased with how accurate this figure is, but we're going to get into some closer detail. So as we get a closer look at him, we can get a good look at that mold and that sculpt. We have some very nice head detail. In fact, I want to say they nailed this head perfectly. He really captures the little bit of 2014 Goji that you get to see in the film, even though he's in the film for like maybe 3 minutes. But zooming into his face, we can see all that rich mold and detail that Neca poured into this figure. Running all down his spine, we have some very nice color separation between the gray and the black. He was on my shelf for 10 years, so I actually had to clean him up with some cotton swabs, so he's nice and pretty for the review. And as we angle his face up, we can get a good look at how shiny and glimmering that eye is. And he has some very nice mouth detail as well. He has a color separated tongue that has a two-tone pink and black finish on it, with his interior of his mouth being kind of pink. His teeth are pretty well painted, better than that Gorosaurus I missed. Overall, very happy with the accuracy of the head. But as we pan down his body, y'all can get a good look at all of that rich green and grayish paint running between his thighs and his underbelly, which transitions very nicely to around his leg, where you'll see, which then continues to wrap to the back side of his leg, where we can see that it's all just the same color, even running down to his tail, even down to the rubber segment. Before we take a deep dive into his tail, I want to point out he has a very nice silhouette. Overall, his spines, while having a solid coat of black paint on top of them, they don't look as shiny as the rest of his body, but they kind of make him stand out a little more. You get just some very nice detail on this figure. Now, as we pan down his body, we'll ignore the mark on his leg right there that I don't know how I got there. It looks kind of like rust. We can see his tail segments come down into it feeds into the rubber segment right about here, which you can't notice it too much. With that rubber wire in the tail, we can see that we can get a multitude of angles out of his tail. Just about anything that you would probably want. You aren't going to get too many crazy poses, though I say that, I'm still able to get a handstand out of him, and he's quite posable and stable while up on my turntable over here. So, very nice indeed for only being like 25 bucks. I thought he could, but you get the idea. Regardless of that little mishap, you can still get all kinds of crazy and cool dynamic poses out of him. Like over here I have him looking like he's running or some shit. But I guess it wouldn't be a full review if I didn't go over his articulation in detail. So starting off with his neck, we have the standard jaw hinge that y'all would come to expect with most Godzilla figures. We have a rotatable head with that neck joint, which allows you to get pretty much as much articulation as you want. Make Godzilla look like he has his neck snapped by Kong or something, but you do you. We can move down to his spine, and we have waist rotation, though I would be careful about overextending the joints on these older Neca figures. You do not want to make them babies loose. Moving down to his shoulder, we have that full shoulder rotation that you would want. We have a hinge at his elbow, and his hands are on ball joints. I want to quickly point out that he has some very nicely painted fingernails, where his arms are also coated with that two-tone paint. Very nice indeed. Moving down to his legs, we have full leg rotation, as you would come to expect, with a limited knee joint, but we can get a decent amount of bend out of that. You can get some solid running poses out of him. And now as we move down to his tail, you know, we have, how many segments is this? We have 1, 2, 3, and then 4 being the rubber tail segment. So that plugs in just right there, and then you're left with these 3. So you can get some solid rotation out of the tail, and with that wire, you can bend it in pretty much any direction you would want. So as we move on with the video, I want to go ahead and do some size comparisons before we wrap this video up. So let's get right into it. So this is the 2014 NECA Goji next to the 2014 Playmates, or whatever brand was doing the licensing back then, licensed toy figure. As we get a good look at them, these are completely day and night. This guy's made for a 5-year-old, while this is made for a 14-year-old. All jokes aside, for being the same exact year and for being only maybe $5 to $10 difference in price, the difference in quality between the two are astounding. Now for the real comparison, we have the 2014 NECA Goji right here next to his 2019 NECA counterpart. I never realized that the design was different until I actually bought the 2019 version, which made me want him even more. For the longest time, I thought these guys were pretty much identical, but the paint, model, and sculpt are all just so different and varied. You really have to have both of these guys for your collection. While I have a great appreciation for both of these designs, it's really hard to choose between the two after comparing them, but I've always preferred the 2019 counterpart because of the more original styled fins on his back. But y'all stay in tune for this review right here. We also have his Atomic Breath variant that is coming sometime in the future, so y'all be ready. Now doing the same thing again, right here we have the 2014 Godzilla next to the 03 NECA Godzilla from Godzilla versus, oh my bad, against Mechagodzilla. Always get those titles confused. The 2003 version of Godzilla is quite bigger than the 2014 NECA figure, which I thought these were all in scale, which I used to believe they weren't. Realistically, the 2014 right here is like 100 feet taller than him, so I think this is pretty humorous. But I think that's gonna do it for the video today. If you enjoy, dropping a like is always appreciated. And if you enjoy these kind of reviews, why not subscribe? It's free. And as always, have an amazing day.